Hey all you cool cats and kittens. Today we're going to look at the Inca, or as I learned, it can also be spelled with a K. I never knew that until I was planning for this. So we're going to look at their culture, what they did, their beliefs, their values, and I'm going to also try and compare them to other civilizations. We're going to talk about we'll do that by talking about some of their accomplishments. So I think their most important one was probably their roads. They didn't look like this, and they actually didn't even use wheels on them. But they went through the entire civilization, and I think without the roads, nothing else that they accomplished would have even been possible. I'll talk more about those later when I talk about why I thought those were the most important achievement. Now, this is Juana Picchu and Machu Picchu. I watched this video on PBS about started talking about Juana Picchu, which is like this really, really high mountain. It's even higher than Machu Picchu, and they had like engineered a city up there with like these buildings and stuff, and how they were able to actually build in these high cliffs. This one guy who was an architect was actually saying how modern day you wouldn't do it. It'd be too dangerous to do. Yet back when they didn't have any like electricity or big tools, they probably had like people just carrying stones up, and they built these amazing walls high up in the mountains. Even like they had terraces more so in Machu Picchu. That's the one I'd heard of before. Juana Picchu I learned about, and they even had like a plumbing system and stuff, and I'm going to tell you more about that right about now. Their hydraulic engineering was a fancy term I learned that kind of means like their plumbing. So I put like a plunger, some pipes. They didn't have any of that stuff, but they were able to get water to travel down the mountain and like through this system of pipes and it wasn't really pipes, it was more so like troughs, and the water would go through so people could have fresh water. It actually went to the king first, and then would go to the other people in Machu Picchu to allow them to all have enough water to live. It also included waste disposal of their plumbing waste. So I guess they found like some place where they thought they would take their waste and they would dump it in there with that. I thought that was interesting, an important achievement. Government. So a fourth achievement I thought was important was their government. So they had the Sapa Inca, which I wanted to point out was mummified and celebrated in a similar way that the ancient Egyptians would mummify their dead, which is interesting to see this type of stuff happen on the opposite sides of the world. I thought that's interesting because I don't know that they learned from each other. It just happened that they both did a similar thing. They also had advanced math. They were like counting population. People were divided into groups or social classes. And they had taxes that you would pay, not with money, but with maybe crops or labor or various other methods of paying people in terms of taxes to the government. Most important achievement was their road. So it made the entire empire possible. I found that in an article called The Great Inca Road, where I realized you could spell it with a K. I actually Googled that to see if it was okay to spell with a K, and it is. Both ways are correct. So they made the entire empire possible by allowing people to move around and spread of ideas. And then the trade and spread of ideas I thought was really important. The complex Inca road system article on News ELA. And one thing that I thought, they were able to both trade with outside nations, but they also used their roads as a way to kind of spread their nation. They eventually kind of took over, but I think the Brain Pop video said that they generally used diplomacy or just talking with the outside nations to kind of join them. Another interesting thing with the trade and spread of ideas is they actually, on their roads, which they were miles and miles long, they had runners stationed. So people would one person would run, carry the message or whatever it was, even like fish. They would have fish that they would travel 150 miles in a day. And so the fish themselves would travel because it'd be runners. So they'd run, hand the fish to the next person, run, hand the fish to the next person. They'd run 4 to 6 miles. And that was, I guess, like their job, which I think is interesting there. So that's the most important thing. And that's a little bit about the ancient Incas.